So here's a question. I know a lot of you read. Many of you are vigilant when it comes to reading what is out there and trying to figure out what is real, what isn't real. And that's what a good studious person does when they want to figure out how to live in this crazy world, right? But have you ever glanced at a headline and thought, man, that's just too awful to even read? And then something inside you says, well, I should read it, right? And you feel a little guilty about it. It's kind of like, And then you realize, it's not real because there's an independent fact checker, debunking it, right? And you're like, thank God this is not real. And then you find out that it is real, but it's out of context. And then you're realizing, let's just read around and see if we can find any more to back this up. And this happened to me when I was doing some articles, or reading some articles rather, and I was writing a few things down about a possible show dealing with euthanasia. And it was this headline about how Canada was going to review an extension of their euthanasia laws to include children. The debate now is how young is too young when it comes to euthanasia. There's some that are debating that the law should be for mature teens who willfully make the decision that they want to end their lives. As soon as March, Canada could allow mature minors to die by euthanasia or assisted suicide without the consent of their parents. Mature minors is a loosely defined concept without specific age. Children who are considered able to make their own medical decisions would be able to request a medically assisted death. So let's put that in context for a moment. Before children in Canada can drive cars, they can be allowed to consent to a physician to take their lives. Equally appalling is the number of adults speaking in favor of expanding the law to include mature minors and also infants and the mentally ill. Dying with Dignity Canada has written in support of extending eligibility to minors, proposing 12 years of age as the minimum age requirement for consent or doing without your parents' consent or knowledge. So with this in mind, I have to ask, what kind of future do our children really have? What kind of future do all of us have? And that, I mean, every year I start thinking about the future at the end of the year. I start thinking, well, what's going to future? Let's look at the past, figure out what the future is going to be. But my gosh, we've had a lot of shows dealing in prophecy, whether it be Dr. Heldor telling us the future or someone telling us the future that is a astrologer. And, most of the things that we were reporting this year came true. A lot of the things that Dr. Heldor says come true. Remember, Dr. Heldor said something about P's and Q's. Now we hear that Pope Benedict is dying. He's got some sickness and he's aging, he's dying. And, we thought, well, Pope Francis may kick it. But now it's Pope Benedict that's close. The Queen, he said the Queen will die. The Queen died. And then there's now this Nostradamus prediction that maybe Prince or King Charles III is going to die. We'll get into that a little later. But still, though, there's a lot of crazy things that are happening. This whole euthanasia thing's got me bugged. But here's something close to home where I live. Oregon, again, in the news spotlight because it's been reported that they are preparing to become the first state to offer legal use of psilocybin to its citizens. And so what they're doing is they're training personnel. A few people are now receiving training to become the first state-licensed magic mushroom trip facilitators. So you could be a licensed administrator or a person who administers psilocybin to a patient and hold his hand through the trip or make sure that you're directing the trip so nothing happens to the person. A report from the Associated Press features images of the first crop of students that are learning how to supervise individuals during their state-sanctioned psychedelic experience. Portland firm Intertrek is working with the state to train 100 of these facilitators. Some classes in the 6-month, $7,900 course are online, but others are in person, held near Portland in a building resembling a mountain lodge with Tibetan prayer flags flapping in the breeze nearby. That's according to what the Associated Press has been saying. Oregon ballot measure 109 was approved by voters in November by an 11% margin. The measure created a program for administering psilocybin products such as psilocybin-producing mushrooms and fungi to individuals aged 21 or older. The Oregon Health Authority was charged with developing the program and given 2 years to do so under the guidance of an Oregon Psilocybin Advisory Board. The measure stipulates that clients are allowed to purchase, possess, and consume hallucinogenic psilocybin at a psilocybin service center while supervised by a psilocybin service facilitator. But they have to undergo a preparation session. It's almost like an amusement park. You go in and say, I would like to take a trip. Okay, sit down, let's talk. And then they administer the mushrooms, and then you're there with a facilitator to make sure everything goes well. So the Oregon Health Authority has been charged with setting licensing standards for the facilitators as well as dosage standards for the drug. I mean, look, I'm not against people who want to try psilocybin. I'm not against this because, I mean, live and let live. If you want to do this, if you think it'll help you, by damn, you have somebody holding your hand and make sure that you don't go, tripping balls, that's fine, okay? But I think it's unbelievable because the whole idea of both euthanasia and tripping while being observed sounds like something, again, Soylent Green. 2022, New York is when Soylent Green happened, right? And now here we are, figured out, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Remember? He saw a time where people would be enslaved by chemicals and you wouldn't have sex to make children. They'd bake them in factories and you could kill yourself whenever you wanted to. It's a strange world, and this is the future that we may be seeing coming up in 2023.